Hey friends, it's Jed. Most of you know me as the assistant editor / announcer guy for React Native Radio. But today, I'm coming to you as director of operations. That's my day job here at Infinite Red. We're dropping a quick message to all of our listeners to say, we're hiring. Now, I get to work with some amazing developers here. But the problem right now is Jamin keeps sending me projects and I'm running out of developers to put on them. I've tried cloning Mazen, it didn't work out well, so now we're here. Infinite Red is looking for senior React Native developers in the US, and if that's you, take advantage of this rare opportunity and head over to careers.infinite.red to apply. Thanks for listening. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Welcome back to another episode of the React Native Radio Podcast. Episode 336, Real Life React Native, Building Boca Socios with Solito, featuring Nahue Alberti.
Hello, React Native Radio listeners. I'm Mazen. If you're not new here, you'd remember a while ago we started a series called Real Life React Native. In this series, we interview developers who work on real-life React Native apps. They're quick and rapid-fire and fun. Let's get started. Today, I'm sitting down with Nahue Alberti from Argentina. Thank you for coming on with us. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Mazen. Awesome to be here in the best podcast of React Native, basically, I think.
Thank you.
So I'm Nahue. You can call me Nahue, or I think my name is a little bit difficult, but I'm currently the CTO at Paisanos, been in technology since I was a child. At 16, I sold my first software, then doing a long run as a freelancer. And then 6 years back, I started working at Paisanos as just a software engineer, and then started scaling the engineering team, the processes, the team dynamics, etc. And right now, I'm the CTO. I worked on the web, work on mobile, work on backend infra, more like a software architect right now. So yeah, Paisanos, for those who don't know, is a product agency from Argentina, worked with a lot of companies, helping them making business strategy, helping them designing, developing and launching digital products.
Awesome. Yeah, and within this series today, we'll be talking about the Boca Socios, which I believe stands for Boca Fans app that you all built for Club Atlético Boca Juniors, which is a football team or soccer team here in the United States. As we get started, what's the elevator pitch for your app? What does your app entail?
Excellent. So Boca Socios or Boca Fans is a digital project with the focus of connecting Boca with their fans. So basically allowing them to buy tickets to go to the stadium, managing the monthly subscription with the club. And we are doing some great stuff right now, like start doing the stadium more digital. So the people that are fans from Boca doesn't have to have manual or analog cards to enter into the stadium. It's a way to connecting fans with Boca.
When did you start using React Native and why?
So at first, I started using React Native once I started working at Paisanos. Before I was more on the web using, jQuery, where React 6 years ago was a thing already. And Paisanos was really a small company back in the time. So the mobile application were more like crude, basic application, so no complexity whatsoever, other than maybe open the camera, and take a photo. But once Paisanos started scaling, we started building more complex applications, so the flows were more complex, the animations, the use of hardware were more intensive. And I really start loving mobile application because I think overall you are more close to the end user, because the cell phone, the phone is the most personal hardware right now, So you probably can give your computer to your friends just to, so they can go to Instagram and stuff like that, but you don't tend to give your phone that easier, So all the feedback that you get from your user, like giving them some animation, give them some vibration, sounds, or good flow, etc., I think is more personal and has more impact. And also on the business side, I think a couple of years back, mobile applications were a thing, Every company wanted that. Every company wanted, hey, I want my mobile application. So I think it was a close deal for me in somehow. And I think in somehow mobile applications are easier, for example, on the responsiveness of the UI. Yeah, you have different phones with different pixel ratios, aspect ratios, but overall, you don't have to think that much about UI or layout, So probably pure laziness of not having big UIs with difference. I also love the web, so I'm a big promoter of universal applications. Boca Junior is an universal application, so it has the complexity of both worlds. I just released a blog post about that. But yeah, I really love mobile. Not just for the business side. I think mobile is king of the retention of the engagement, but also on the complexity on the web with managing the cache, managing server-side components, etc. I really love complexity in tech. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. The blog post, the universal way, one code base, all platforms. We will include that in the show notes too, so our listeners can read through that article.
Yeah.
You mentioned universal apps. Can you please go into what is your architecture stack for the Boca Socios app, and why did you choose it, or what was your process in choosing it?
So Boca itself is a big monster, So on the backend side, it has Kubernetes, it has a lot of integration. So I think that part is for a specific podcast. So overall, in the client side of Boca Juniors, is an universal application that use Solito, a tool that was built by Fernando Rojo. Right now, Nando is on Verso. A big hat to him. Is a great person, a great developer. And it uses Next.js and Expo, and then communicates into a big API, as I say, is a big backend. One of them being the core of Boca that has a big back office with ticket management platform, queues, etc., etc. So, as I said earlier, I'm a big promoter of universal applications. Here in Paisanos, we tend to experiment a lot in the laboratory of Paisanos, experimenting new technology, new ways to give value to clients. And we also have a couple of production-ready universal applications. So, for example, one of them being ClaroPay, that is one of the biggest fintech in Argentina that has millions of users and is a purely universal application. So we have the experience of doing that. And for Boca, they already had a web product. It was an old PHP applications that was since forever. And they came to Paisanos who wanted to make just a mobile application. They didn't have the necessity of migrating the web, but I think the UX was terrible. It was horrible for our standards. So we didn't want to be part of something that it was going to be so different from product to product. So the mobile app, it was going to be great, but the web is going to be rough, old and with a bad experience. So and not just that, also on the backend side, I think the performance was really tough. They had a lot of performance issues. So yeah, I think the work that we did with Boca, it was more related to a modernization, not just a mobile app. Because if we just build the mobile application, it's going to be a good experience, but bad performance, a slow mobile app. So the project basically migrate from just doing the app to make this big modernization work on the backend too, building this universal application so we can replace the web with this new build and having these two channels. So we started doing this work with Boca 2 years ago. So the technology also was a little bit tricky, So right now, Expo can export web with server components. I think it's still experimental, but you can do it. But 2 years ago, it's more like a single page application that it was slow. So it was impossible. So then we choose Solito, that is basically a way to have the best of the web, that is Next.js, and the best from mobile, that is Expo.
Perfect. Can you describe some unique challenges you encountered while developing your app using React Native? How did you deal with some of those cross-platform differences, iOS versus Android versus web while using your stack?
Yeah. Excellent. So I think the most challenging things are related more to design or UI or presentation itself, because you don't have only the problem of Android versus iOS, because they tend to have problems, so iOS have the notch, so you have to have that in mind in order to make a good layout. But also you have web, and web is not only you have a big screen. It has different design patterns of components, For example, a mobile application tends to have a button sheet when presenting an alert, or a button nav when presenting the navigation. But that on desktop just doesn't work, You can have a button navigation in a big desktop. It seems wrong, So I think more related to components and UI and making the right decision for every product. And also, you have this kind of, some libraries doesn't work on web. Yeah, we can make an exception. This library, we're going to use it only on mobile. This library going to use only on the web. Also, a big problem that we encounter is that I think mobile has this kind of superpower that is basically when a user wants to use your app, just download the entire bundle, So download 100 megabytes of the application. So the application is already on the device. But when you have a web application, you have to be a little bit more tricky using the cache, using the right server components, so the user doesn't download 100 megabytes on the web, because that's really slow. So start making the abstractions of the API on the web and on mobile. It was really a challenge, because more on the web, we use a lot of server components, we use a lot of get server-side props, and more on the mobile side, we use a lot of, the TAN stack to use and make the API calls, So I think overall, what we reuse between web and mobile, I think it was more the components, because the logic itself tends to be a little bit different.
It's amazing to hear you say that the only challenges are mainly unique UI differences. It's a testament to how far React Native has come these days, where it is so universal. You're doing it on three different platforms, and your only issues are, UI. That's amazing.
Make it look good.
Yeah.
Also, just to add something there, Mazen, so 5 years back, we started building a product. We started helping a company build a product that was called Flixo. They use the universal approach, but with React Native Web. I don't know if you remember. I think right now, universal application use
Native Web,
Yeah, but it's a stable version,
Yeah.
So back in the time, universal was possible, but it has too many flaws, So I think also working with native models, right now, with all the advance of React Native, we don't really need to use a native model,
So that actually leads me into my next question. Have you had to build any native modules for this application?
Yeah, not for Boca, because I think right now, the current technology, the current libraries are really stable, More on the Expo side, I think Expo did a great work making React Native stable. And I think what they did is really great, because React Native back in the time were really supported only by the community. And the community has another jobs, So the person that did the file upload library probably has another work, and then the library start deprecating and something like that. Right now, we have a team like Expo that is continuously maintaining all the libraries, the core libraries of React Native. So for me, that was really great.
Another testament to React Native, where you're building a well-built app, both stores has 5 stars and, many thousands of reviews, and you don't have any native modules. That's amazing. How do you handle testing in your React Native application, from unit to end-to-end testing?
So we have 2 things. On the visual side, we tend to use a lot of Storybook. So we use Storybook as we say that we use the pattern of component-driven development. So we start building the components on isolation on Storybook. So we can have all the different state, all the different feedback, etc., etc. And then on the logic side, we tend to use a lot of detox or testing library, but we migrate that from a new tool that is called Autonoma. So Autonoma is a product that it was made by a team from Argentina that is an AI that basically, based on your prompt, that can be your user stories, start doing an end-to-end testing of your application. So we start migrating from Detox, that is more like a configuration language on YAML, to a more natural language on Autonoma. So we started working with them a couple of months back, and I think we had a lot of great results because we don't need engineers to start making the test of the application. The test can be done by the QA team, the quality assurance team of the product owners itself, because it tested by a prompt, I call it by testing, instead of by coding, by testing. We start working with them. So for the visual side, Storybook, for the logic side, right now, Autonoma, that is AI end-to-end testing.
Perfect. We will include Autonoma AI in the show notes so our listeners can take a look at it. What advice would you give to companies considering React Native?
Right now, I think just jump on it. I think right now, React Native is pretty solid. As I said earlier, Expo did a great work making React Native stable, scalable, a great scalable platform, and it's easier to launch right now. I remember back in the time when we had to deploy a mobile application, we had to use Bitrise with Fastlane. We had to make a lot of great configuration in order to upload this to the different stores. Right now with the Expo, it's just a command and you're already on the store. And also I think the competition like Flutter is right now being deprecated in somehow, and also it's difficult to find a good Flutter developers. The hiring process is really tough, So yeah, but before that, I think companies need to ask themselves, do I really need this application? Because web is strong right now, Tools like Next.js, like Byte with React.js, I think allow you to build products really fast, so ships really fast. I think mobile application right now, they doesn't have the difficulty that have back in the time, but I think it's a platform that, I don't know, you need to ask yourself if you really need an application. It's easier because you can build an universal application right now with Expo easy, But yeah, I think the question is, do I really need an application? And then if you need it, you can jump into React Native because it's great.
What advice would you give to new React Native developers?
I think overall, technology is going to a more generalistic role, so more full stack developers. I think there's a lot of market for React Native developers. So if you go to LinkedIn and you search for React Native jobs, it has a lot of work for React Native developers, So I think React developers that don't find jobs go to React Native because it's really great. And also, I think React Native is going to be a big thing this year because Expo is doing a great work making React Native stable, making React Native scalable. But also, there's more tools like One Framework. One Framework from the Tamagi team is great too. I think Links is a great tool too, that it came stable a couple of weeks back. So yeah, just jump on React Native. It has a big job market, and I think right now it's not that difficult as it was a couple of months back.
Would you still choose React Native if you could go back with the knowledge you have today?
100%. I think there's no competition on the mobile side of applications, So back in the time, using Flutter was a thing, it was a doubt. It was a doubt between companies too. So companies came to you and say, hey, can you build my mobile application but using only Flutter? That was a thing back in the time. I think React Native is right now the only competitor for making stable mobile applications. And right now, you don't really need to learn Kotlin or Swift UI, for example. I love Swift UI more on the animation side. I tend to use it a lot. because it's beautiful. I think it works. But I think a couple of years back, I tend to use Kotlin and Swift a lot because I had to make native models. For example, back in the time, I used a lot of Kotlin or Swift UI to make native models because we really need it. For example, we made a React Native application that it was for a cryptocurrency company, a non-custodial wallet. All the crypto and encryption polyfills that you need back in the time, it was really tough to make it work, Right now, I think that complexity just doesn't exist anymore. That was, as I said earlier, thanks to the community, I think Microsoft puts a lot of work into the React Native team too. Yeah, I think right now React Native is a thing. And I think finally this year, we are going to have a race for the mobile ecosystem, Because as I say, we have links, we have one framework, we have React Native. Also, Vercel hired Nando Rojo. I really think Vercel is trying to do something on the mobile side. I think competition make us developers win, always win. Because we start making product with a wider amount of tools, So for us, I think it's going to be a really great year. But yeah, React Native all the way and universal applications all the way.
Awesome. Thank you, Noel, for joining us today and getting our Real Life React Native series back up and running. If you'd like to be on this series and talk about your experience using React Native in the real world, email us at rnradio@infinite.red and introduce yourself and your app. See you all next time.
As always, thanks to our editor, Todd Worth, our assistant editors, Jed Bartosky and Tyler Williams, our marketing and episode release coordinator, Justin Husky, and our guest coordinator, Mazen Chami. Our producers and hosts are Jamin Holmgren, Robin Hines, and Mazen Chami. Thanks to our sponsor, Infinite Red. Check us out at infinite.red/radio. A special thanks to all of you listening today. Make sure to subscribe to React Native Radio on all the major podcasting platforms.